So, as you can see, the title of our presentation is The Trinidad Experience. We entitled it Beyond Carnival Beaches and Bikinis because basically everyone who asked us about our study abroad experience, or the students that we spent the semester on the beach and dancing and bikinis and things like that. So we focused our presentation on living, studying, and interning. I mean, that was part of the living, but that's not the focus of our presentation. So one of the classes that we had to take, well, we also took classes at the University of the West Indies. I took Men and Masculinities in the Caribbean because I'm a gender studies major.
And I took three-dimensional design in the visual arts department.
So these classes we took independently, like on our own. We walked to them. Well, we'll get to that later. But so some of the classes, two of them we took together as a group. So the Trinity students took Caribbean Civilization and Festival Arts as cultural performance. Caribbean Civilization was really sort of like a historical, sort of like history-based class, very discussion-based. Our final project was basically whatever we wanted it to be. I did a Trinidad Urban Dictionary, which is really funny because there are a lot of little vocabulary words that, if I knew when I got there, would have really helped me to just adjust and sort of like feel more of a part of the community. A lot of little sayings, just like anywhere. So I put that together for incoming students that would come to future programs for them to use. I think Jeanika now has a copy at the OIP. Yes.
Which we are contemplating putting in our handbook.
We should.
We should. So I think the objectives for our final projects, at least what was conveyed to us that we needed to accomplish, was to teach other people, especially incoming students, things that they need to know. So hers, of course, was language, which was really important to you, and for me it was about the different sites and different people that we met there. So I ended up making visual pieces, I suppose, or little blurb descriptions for the photographs that students took, that I took, of different places we've been, of different people we've met, and actually made frames out of mat board and put them in the program house on the wall. So the program house was where we had classes. We did do some social events there. When we had guests come, they stayed there. Tony Hall would come and stay there. He had his own room upstairs. The offices are there. There's a kitchen there. We did have dinners together that we tried to just do on the side. We just did our own potluck dinner sometimes. So in the program house, I thought that would be a really important place to put things for other people, because all the classes after us will still have the program house. Even though they don't live in the apartments anymore, the program house will still be there. So I will definitely go into more detail about what else I did to the program house. Our second class was Festival Arts as cultural performance, and that was the one with Tony Hall. He's a playwright there, and very friendly guy. Too friendly, maybe. We did a lot of things in different locations having to do with Carnival, the history of Carnival. It was not just about the bikini, as we said, and getting onto the road, but where it came from, what the independence was. And I mean, I have a list of all the things here with the characters and with stick fighting. We had the different kinds of parties you would go to. That could have been fundraisers. Old Yard had to do with the older characters that may not any longer be played, but people still really liked the traditional characters.
These traditional characters actually came to some of our classes, and we got to like try out. I know the Jab Jabs came, which are like the devils, and they like would crack those. I was very afraid of them, so I would like hide in the office with Shami, the program director, while they were cracking the whips. But we also had the traditional sailor come, and he showed us like the dance. He was about like 86 years old. Could move better than anyone in this room. And I had a video of that too, but we didn't want to like overwhelm the presentation. But
we also had the opportunity to learn how to walk on stilts, so that was really fun. I've never done that, and yes, I do have a pair in my room in Browne-Springer.
You're personally shipped to her. So one of the best parts, I think, of this program is that Trinity and Trinidad is so old. It's been there for such a while, so the program is really well established, and so we got to meet like a lot of famous people. So this is us with Ella and Del, one of our first days there. She is an Afro-Caribbean singer, a chantal singer, and really renowned in Trinidad. And I think there are other parts. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. And it turns out that she was actually related to the Amherst student, Asia Millette, that was with us. She was related with some grapevine to her. This is us with Earl Lovelace. He is an author. We were actually reading his book, The Wine of Astonishment. This book about baptism, the Baptist religion in Trinidad. But he also wrote another book, which I was reading at my UE class, The Dragon Can't Dance, which was about like different types of Trinidadian masculinities and the construction of it. It's very interesting, so we got an opportunity to talk to him to hear about the next book he's working on. So I don't know, I don't feel like the other programs can really have experiences like that because it's just so much harder to get in touch with these like famous people in I think more developed countries, I guess you could say.
And at a later point, myself, Andrea, and Nikki all got to meet his son, Walt, and that was really nice. He's kind of into filmmaking and kind of the new contemporary way of Trinidad filmmaking and doing things fancy, we'll call it fancy. That was nice to know. And then to meet his father later on, and he always wears white.
Yeah, he was. I don't know if you can tell here, but he's like literally. Why is it? Okay. He's dressed like all in white.
And again, with more people we met, and
It's going still.
that was great. Leroy Clark, famous, very famous artist. We did go to his house and his studio in 2 different locations, and got to see all of his work and his galleries and how he makes things.
His house is like a museum. I mean, it is
a
a
living
living museum.
museum.
I wish we had put more pictures of that, but and he just brings students into his home and shows off his art. Very interesting guy.
And again, yes, that is me still walking. Those ones are only a foot tall. The one in my room are 3 feet, and I can't stand on them yet. But I'm
You'll see her walking around campus.
Fastest way to get to Vernon Street. And the top picture was from the Cambriolet riots, again with the historical context of it, and then having to actually perform that in the streets in Port of Spain against another crew. Of course, this is only staged. We don't actually beat each other up, but we did have to put on the costumes and
Engage in stick fighting, and we were kind of hurt in the
there was
practices.
rehearsals and everything.
In the rehearsals, people got a little aggressive because we were representing the British policemen who were trying to contain the carnival, which was really Africans. They wanted to like be out in the streets and doing their carnival, and that was seen as like a ghetto kind of street thing. So the British police were supposed to go out in the streets and sort of contain them, but we were overtaken, I guess, and by like
Yes,
sticks
and
on
run
sticks.
out of the city, literally being chased.
Then that's
fire
why-
on sticks and whatnot.
It's the spirit of the carnival.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, one of our participants was singled out, Vander Corliss, as you can say here. Someone approached him and said that he really embodied the spirit of carnival. I thought that was really special.
Okay, and again from our UE classes, so I took 3-dimensional design, which is our sculpture class, and yes, I did get it to count for that credit. We did 3 major projects. The first one is there on the left with the metal and the chairs, and that was a group project. So for your very first project in a UE class, it'd be a group project, really getting to know other students, having to meet extra times, not just in class, in order to accomplish this project. We were learning about polyhedrons and how to build them out of, and these are newspaper plates. They use some kind of metal printing press plates to make them. So spending lots of hours cutting those and folding those and taping those and making them into a functional chair. So ours became a throne. Other people used cardboard. Some people tried to use wood, that kind of thing. So this was very different, and I forget what we called it. It was some kind of a chair. The Royal Pane? I think that's what it was. And then on the right side, this was our third project, our very last one, and it was more about tile making. So starting with clay, having to actually make it, mold it however you will until it dries to a certain extent, and then pouring it into a plaster cast, and then pouring it back into cement. So the one on the upper left side there is the actual cement one. And for me, I wanted to make one big picture. Some people had tiles that each made something different. It was whatever you wanted it to be. And of course, we had to make poster boards and present to the class with my English accent to the class about the process and what you went through. The final project was more one-on-one with the professor himself. So you can meet him and hear his opinion of it. So that was a really fun project, having to carry a bag of plaster on my shoulder.
I feel like we all worked really hard, but I feel like Jeanika's work was most apparent because I lived with her, she was my roommate. So our apartment was always like full of like art stuff, and like she'd bring her art friends over, and our living room would become like this sort of like museum. But this project, I remember in particular, each tile took like, it was like a 3-hour process for
I had to wait for those to dry.
one, because she'd have to wait for each mold to dry, and it was just very complicated. I was a passive observer, not really. It's kind of foreign to me, but I think she has another.
Yep, and then this I think was my favorite project. We had to take a small bug, some kind of local bug that you saw there, and blow it up. And we were using chicken wire on the inside. We were learning the art of chicken wire bending and cutting.